and Director IIA, to Shyam Tandon, Program Manager of UVIT, Kiran Kumar sir, who is the Chairman of the Governing Council of IIA, distinguished guests, and my colleagues, and all the people who are involved and users of UVIT. And I welcome you all to this occasion where we are celebrating 10 years of successful observation of UVIT. Okay? And today we are not just marking a passage of time, we are celebrating a decade of dedication, hard work, and collaboration. 10 years ago, when this mission was launched, we set out with an ambitious plan of exploring the universe using a multivalent approach. And to enhance our ambition to use space technologies built by India. UVIT is definitely a success story, and I hope it will continue to inspire scientists, engineers, and students across the world. Over the past decade, UVIT has delivered groundbreaking discoveries. Some are expected, some are surprising. And this project has also demonstrated that dedication and teamwork can deliver things. Each new paper which we see in AstroSat today stands as a proof of the extraordinary people behind UVIT, the designers, the engineers, operators, the analysts, the researchers, and the many people who have supported UVIT from its conception to execution. Today, we are here to celebrate the accomplishments of UVIT, to celebrate the human spirit that made this possible. We recognize the challenges faced by this mission, the solutions that were created, and the dedication that carried this mission through launch, operations, and beyond. As we look back in pride, we also look forward with excitement. The insights that gain from this decade will shape our future space missions, will inspire the young generations, and expand our knowledge of the universe. And I believe the next chapter in UV astronomy from India will be even more extraordinary than the last what we are assembled here today to celebrate. Thank you all for being here today. Your presence reflects the strong community behind this mission. With that, I warmly welcome you to the celebration of 10 years of UVIT. Thank you. So, I now welcome Dr. Annapurna Subramanian, the Director of IIA, for her address.
Good morning and welcome to IIA, and I welcome you all to this program celebrating 10 years of UVIT in operation. This is a very unique moment, which is a very rare moment in fact, where I would like to tell each of the who's all present in this audience, because it's important for us to know, starting from where we started and where we are now. And all those people who contributed more than 25 years, I may be wrong, but a little more than that. So they're all here. So we have people who have conceptualized this mission along with AstroSat, they're here as science. People who actually designed it as an instrument are here, and people who drove this to actually make it into happen, and they're here, and people who made it, who led making of it, and who made it are all here. And making of an instrument also requires infrastructure development, human resource development. They are also here. People who witnessed it at the time of the launch and carried over to making it actually work are here. And people who used it to actually bring out science. So you have to literally develop a lot of software, analysis tools, etc., got trained in it, and see what science you can do with it. So got inspired by it and developed it and produced science which is here. So it is not very often you come across these set of people who started from conceptualization to actually realization and do science with it. So it's an amazing moment. And all the people from various organizations. So we are here at IIA. So our team at IIA who actually started the science part and the conceptualization part, the integration part, setting up of everything. Who were all contributed from IIA here. Led by ISRO people are here, who actually were part of various activities, including operation, continuing to operate are here. And also the centers of ISRO who contributed to it, representatives are here. We also have people from TIFR and UCA who are part of the integrated team which work to actually deliver and commission and deliver the science-ready data are here. And I don't know whether I'm missing out anybody. And we have Richard, who is actually visiting us as part of the DST review committee, and we are extended stay for science collaboration are here. And also our admin support, who were a part of the process, which actually made sure that the entire processes completed. So actually the entire institute participated in the entire delivery of not only starting from conceptualization, but also to make it happen. So if you want to run the entire infrastructure to be set up, all the components to be brought, so all the ecosystem have to work together to make it happen. So that are all there. So so that is the outset. So it's not very often you come across, we can have a gathering of everybody starting from conceptualization to users. So right now, when it was launched and even at a few years after the launch, we did celebrate the activities, what literally took us through the launch and initial operation, etc. But in the last 10 years, we focused what is that have we achieved in terms of science, utilization of data, etc. And what is in future, that will be the focus of this meeting. So we would also like to remember that most of the missions, though they produce data for a fixed number of years of time, but the data will be useful for decades to come in future, because many other things which cannot be done, we look back and look at it. Like if you look at certain sciences are done using IIA data, which was in 1980s. But how can you use the data? Because the data is archived and science-ready data is made public. So it's also important for us to make sure that this data is made available to the future community in a really usable form so that its impact increases. So what I'm saying is the impact as you see now is only just the beginning. So it'll increase more and more and more. And as we see many UV missions which are coming up, but they're not going to be having the resolution as good as UVIT, which is giving now. So it's going to be extremely useful when those missions come up as well. So the utility of this is yet to be explored, and we're just in the verge of starting that particular phase. So this is a clear juncture of at least taking a stock of how we are doing and what needs to be done in the future to actually see this ecosystem still exists. You have these people who conceptualize to actually the users. This ecosystem is existing, and it is quite unusual in many cases. So how do we use this ecosystem to make our pitches forward? So that these are the things which we should be thinking or brainstorming in this particular meeting. And I'm glad that we are having all these people around here, and also students who are listening to this. And our POC has led this, putting together this kind of program. I also think that we would plan a detailed science meeting in the year 2026, where we actually have a lot of students coming and deliberating on various themes which are targeted and understood from basically the science topics will be covered in that. So I look forward to this meeting, and I'm really thankful that all of you could come to this meeting, and I look forward to having an interesting session forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Director IIA. So I now request Dr. Kiran Kumar sir to give his address.
Good morning to all of you. Dr. Annapurni, Director IIA, Shyam Tandon, Koteshwara, Fatehji, and all of you who are here. It's indeed a very significant event, as was pointed out. On this occasion, I remember Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who was in a way a very key person who was responsible for this particular activity to take off. And it was his desire and vision which enabled an entity like ISRO to enable academic institutions and laboratories in the country to participate in a space program, and then through that build a mechanism, whereas for a long time, a lot of researchers from this country were depending on only other nations or other space agencies' data for usage. But then how to change that scenario was one of the key thought processes of his. And it was his efforts which resulted in anyway what we are discussing today. So I would like to pay my obeisance to him and remember him on this occasion. Apart from that, of course, as we realized this particular mission itself, it was very clear that it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task primarily because of commitment from people outside ISRO organization itself. For many of them, it was like whether it's going to be there, how long it is going to last, all kinds of doubts will be there. So, but in spite of that, if they have to commit, they also have to take a risk in some ways. So it's good that many of the people who at that time realized that if we have to make a change in the country, it's only if we put in this effort today, things will change. So as we have seen from last 10 years, now things are changing very rapidly and the country is now moving ahead in space activities of providing not only ISRO is doing the activity, but a lot of private entities are getting into the business of putting infrastructure in space, building now academic institutions are building things, they are coming up, and now you will have in the coming years a huge opportunity for a lot of people who have different ideas of how to make use of space-based observation for this in a whole lot of different methodology. Unlike in the earlier era, it is to be like in a way you can say one space agency trying to enable various academic institutions. Today, the opportunity is enormous. And if that has happened, it has happened because of commitment and efforts of a whole lot of people, like as Madam was pointing out, from those who are conceiving it to those who made it. One of the thing is what we need to do is we need to make sure that this enabling explodes. Enabling can explode only when we tell the story, narrate the story of the success, and then continue to showcase how missions like this can make a difference, both to our understanding of the universe, but also how we can conceive of new ways of doing the observation. If you see humanity, all the time, our ability to understand the universe has improved only because you have brought in newer and newer ways of observing things, observing in different wavelengths, different ranges, and different mechanisms, so making it more and more sensitive. And it's all the time the adding new observation, which actually fuels the whole process of modeling and development. So in this context, I would like to compliment IIA and also the program office for bringing all of you together to listen to what has happened, how things went about, and then also look at what needs to be done in the near future and in the far future. Wish you all a great exercise of this reminiscence. Thank you.
We'll just, thanks sir. So we'll just try to present a 5 minutes video. This video takes a journey of what have happened for UVIT. So we have tried our best to put things together. Okay, so we will move on to the next speaker. This is Professor Kameshwar Rao. He'll be talking about UVIT origins.
I'm supposed to tell you the story, how the started the idea which we date back about 4 years now. I think. UVIT actually when we thought beginning as a size of the lone man with a stick trying to climb the whole Himalayan snow peaks and that's that kind of endeavor which how we visualize when we conceive when we thought. So actually as oh I see, okay. I should take back to seen before we started very seriously looking. The UV astronomy in general in India started probably in Carlo. The next slide with that gentleman who was a friend of Dr. Baku. And his story is late 1979 or early 80, when I was observing my 14 telescope on Tower. He used to regularly visit Tower, stay in that 40-inch dome. One of his bedroom used to be one of those windows up there. So in the morning, he used to get up before the one day I was observing on the after the observations, I walked back to my room and he opened the window and called me. Oh, you come here. Then he told me that he had received an application to appoint a time at IIA telescope from Kashi Nandi from Royal Observatory, Edinburgh. And he was that time IIA president. He was elected in Montreal in 1979 as the president of IIA. Well, after the General Assembly was over, when he was coming through US and he was taken to see Gola and he was shown the IIA facility. So he was very impressed. He said, we should apply for time in this. So, and then we had only one day to do that. So the whole day we tried to bring, make the proposals, couple of proposals. And then he took those proposals back to Bangalore, and then those days you had to do teletype and all kinds of things, and then made them reach Edinburgh. See that IIA was operated by 3 agencies, NASA, IISA, and SERC of UK. So we were applying for time in UK. Luckily, we did get time to do a few things, but he also pointed out to me, one of the first people who realized the importance of UV for astronomy is the other gentleman who was from there, Meghnad Saha. Way back in 1937, in a lecture which was in Harvard, it was published at Harvard Operative Bulletin. Can you hear me on that? Yes. So he narrated, he told that actually what is the importance of the information to get if you go do space observations. For example, right now for 1260 and 1250, and you can read the whole thing because I only have that minute. But he's even soon after the first proposal for space observation, which was apparently over in 1923, he pointed out there are 2 advantages by going into space. One is that there's no atmosphere, Earth's atmosphere, which can blur things. Second thing is you can, that provides you the diffraction limited image. So, second thing is that so much of the wavelength of UV, the spectral region which is inaccessible from the ground, you can access that. And this is a picture which shows you how high you have to go to get a night space observation. For example, if you want to do 12,000 to 2,000 degree, ransom observations, you have to go up to 100 kilometers high. So that obviously initiates a space observation. Another advantage in going to space is that the background in UV is so low. The normal sky background is around 21, 22 magnitudes per second apart. In space, in UV, the background was so low that a small telescope or small aperture system can acquire a lot of photons by looking at it for longer time. Whereas on Earth, we are limited by the sky background. So that is another advantage which has space observations provided. And moreover, UV has for astrophysical many important elements which are come in the stage of ionization, the resonance events are called the UV. Those are three basic main advantages. But this is what being exploited in the space missions. Now, another big giant in this today was Lyman Spitzer. After in 1940, 43 or so, he was the one who predicted the galactic corona, which is a very hot gas. To detect that, one has to make UV observation. That was a driving force to go for this orbit with many satellites. These were some observations which were done at the IIA with our application to IUE, that's International Astronaut Explorer. And some UV activity was also being done at PAFR. This was the thing seen around 1980 to almost mid 80s. There were all these space missions existed before 1980. Most of them way over to the Copernicus, TD1, ANS, and the Copernicus, all these are spectroscopic missions. They only exploit the wavelength region and the height of UV. But spatial mapping, imaging, was not done there. See, this was in mid-1980s. By that time, our ISRO was doing all these things, selecting satellites. So I thought, okay, good. Can we push India to do some imaging telescope up there? And that was a kind of dream. It was not there. And so the dream continues. And until 1990, there was no imaging telescope. And how do you achieve that? And we don't have any contact of students and nothing. And I didn't know how we would approach that. Luckily, as Dr. Kiran Kumar mentioned, Dr. Kastur Rangan and Dr. Mara held a meeting in 1986 or 87, asking for payloads, various payloads, to be flown in the space missions. There were some about 10 proposals. And then we also showed in our proposal for a UV telescope. I think we continued the UV telescope in 1983. And that proposals were where they graded. I think ours was around second in the priority list. But, and everything was dormant. Meanwhile, UIT went up for a couple of times and showed us how imaging in UV looks like. few galaxies. That was a very limited exposure. Then in 1996, again, Dr. Kasturrangan made two committees to look at various payloads based on the science payload and made two groups. One for high energy astrophysics, X-ray gamma rays, and which was chaired by Prahlad Agarwal, and the other region UV optical layer astronomy, and these are the two. These are the point. This is the group, working group, some for identifying what is the best suitable payload we can. And somehow we managed to push UV imaging because you can do it from the ground. Other optical and even IR you can do from the ground. So we thought UV should be the one. And luckily the whole committee supported that. And then UV imaging telescope was prioritized. And this is the kind of report. By that time, I think we had James Murthy joining us. One of the issues, apart from the optics, we could do in IIA, mechanical also, though we never had any experience in space instrumentation, we thought we can make attempts. And one of the big hurdles was the detector. Detectors were made only in a few places in the world for you. In US, and getting a detector from US was almost impossible. And then the British were making one detectors, but then the electronics making as a system which you can put on. These things are not easily available. Then James said, the Canadians were also thinking of doing this kind of telescope before, but he was not funded. So maybe we can collaborate with the Canadians. And then through him, we contacted Hutchins, and I think went to a couple of villages, and we also went there to Canada. And this Canadian collaboration parallel. So this committee finally recommended that we should design UV up to payload, multi-leveling, and the Canadian collaboration for the detectors. That was the stage wherein which IIA was started taking up this. Okay, actually, Ashok Pati and we made a proposal combined along with other payloads. At that time, the concept was a single telescope of 50 years beam split, dichroic mirror, which can reflect near UV and that's for UV and so on. And no time to read all that. But anyway, that was the proposal. And optics to be developed by Saxena and company and all the projects and so on. Because finally we combined this whole thing, and this is the proposal which was submitted to Chairman in 2000, Chairman Space Committee in 2000 with various things. These are images from the UVIT images to do a sample. And this was the case that time partly responsible for developing instrumentation. Then then the real hurdle started. Okay, then from 2000 onwards to 2002, there are several meetings and several problems, difficulties, and it takes long time to tell you, ups and downs, and even arguing. There was our chairman, that time chairman of the council was second. And we needed clean rooms and 10 crore establishment to develop those. He says, what do you do with this once you spend 10 crores and build this? After this, there is no use for it. So, I mean, all kinds of problems are there, and we come from manage to do that. This was the defining meeting where finally they resolved, and this was the agenda of that meeting. And they finally decided we will make Anand the project manager and drive execution. And the college board was on with the chairman. And things went on from there. So finally, this is the configuration we finalized around 2022. Even before, it was supposed to install one telescope. We thought we'll have two telescopes. One going in near UV and optical, one solely for UV. So, and also it gives a redundancy in two telescopes, and which really happened in the one field, and still we are continuing with UV for UV. That was an advantage. And I mean, all this we never compromised on the spatial resolution. We wanted to have around 1 second apart imaging right from the base. That is because the ground imaging, there are lots of surveys. So one of the projects which we initiated with was the All Sky survey in UV, which was not existing at that time. Later, of course, Galaxy came out and did, but their spatial resolution was 5 to 7 seconds apart, and they were only concentrating mostly on galaxy evolution and so on. So, but whereas we wanted to have the both galactic as well as other, and then around 1 second of spatial resolution, which so to be such a great advantage now. So anyway, this is the final configuration. And from here on, Professor Shyam Tandon will take over and tell you how this the thing was made. I was one made a group which for UVIT meeting involved in here on one of the first events. Perspectively, Shyam was missing from there. All the rest were present here. Okay, it's another photograph. And remember, this was our first attempt. First attempt and a very major attempt. And carrying it out successfully and in a standard commensurate with the present day requirements of science is really commendable. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so now we will move on to the next presentation. It is by Professor Shyam Tandon, who will talk to us about the making of UVIT.
Okay, so Ramesh has already told the beginnings how we came to some kind of decision what kind of control you will have, all the specifications. Now I'm going to make it. So I will do some key elements in making what long story. So I will give some background, but I will specify it out. Commission already given, from the design also is given. So start from the showing what is the whole telescope is about, then go to important features of technical development. Giving you all the correlating information here. Timeline 2015 was launched. 2002 was the 10th beginning of hard work in this advance. Thomas already explained. The government definitely came only in 2004, but work had started already earlier. So it was guided already by Dr. John Joseph, by the two actual lot. So this is correct. So this line is showing that if we took a image, long time image with the UVIT, which is on AstroSat, we said drift. The pointing accuracy was much worse than 1.8 arc circle, which so the drift. So we do something else. So essentially, what we do is take very short exposure and shift the depth. Shift the depth. Old technique, nothing new with this. But we just show this image and I'm sure you find it again. So see, this is configuration. So here is the doors. The doors also act as a shield. Because sunlight will go into contaminate with the UV. Then the reference for the shielding in the primary mirror here. Light goes up, this secondary mirror here, come back. And the focal plane here, there's certain filters which is rotate on wheel to select some bend, part of the bend. Also, there is grating for spectroscopy about 100 resolution. One telescope is purely for UV, far UV, another is for near UV and visible. Now, visible is not the scientific aim, but I will tell you why it is like this. Now, there's nothing special about this actually. I mean, it's like any other telescope, but I will tell you what is special about UVIT compared to the ground-based telescope, for example. Apart from what the space demand, rigidity and all that is there already. Yes, detectors. This is here. There are three detectors. They are almost identical actually, except that the photocathodes are different in the MCP. Okay, this is the optics which is here. This is about 2 meters long. Primary mirror, this is the speeder for UV to go here from near UV and VUV flow. And this is 5. Okay. So the mirrors are very similar to what you use in visual astronomy, except they will slightly better for the shorter wavelength. And of course, they will be strong, etc. for the short. That coating, the main point about the mirrors was the coating had to reflect far UV also. And we need a special purpose coating for that. So that will be used within the technology. So we wanted 80% reflectivity starting by about 1300 angstrom, going up to 2000 angstrom and beyond that. So there is some kind of a coating which will not let oxide form in aluminum. And you will interference with the same to use the number for some unit. So it will be a special coating, the pointing coating which development will use especially for UV. Detectors, I mentioned that the UV very short exposure, so we could not use CCD and things of that kind. We would use intensive detector which can detect Indian photons. It is very short exposure, typically 30-40 milliseconds or shorter. And then they will shift between due to satellite, they will add independent images after shifting. Then what you notice, C1 detectors were probably used for the first time in space. First time in space. And the detector, the controls belong to CSA. Okay, and there's a conservation. They develop the controllers as well as calibrator detectors, and some parts of the detector bought from a company. Okay. Photonic and Blues, they were the black coating. The point is the contamination for the far UV waste with any monomolecular layers can block good part of the far UV radiation. So you wanted the coating, so black coating to be inorganic, not organic. And so I was hunting around and talked to the thermal Dr. Sharma, who was a good chemist in I think that time. Talked to him, then he didn't say anything. He very person, he spoke very little, but I always find him after working hours in the evening. He was working extra overtime every day. So then after some time, he gets one day he told me, for a year or something, that I have got this because of you. So he does this coating very nice, it is used now. And normally coating black, it all done by him. Great, great. And brother, we will do hunting how to get rid of contamination. I mean, it worked very well. The thing is that the sensitivity of farming is not gone down yet after 10 years. Okay, this is the procedure of telescoping. Somebody check in new parts and then you telescope part is only primary mirror first, then primary secondary mirror, then detector. The most time consuming part in this is finding focus for all the filters and over the place. I think the main point was we have to do it in waveform. And every cycle we take almost a day. And we may say, so after all the corrections, in fact, I was not sure whether we did this one. Okay. So this is how it worked. This is why it took time. So all our team, they working like for every day for so much years. And I used to tell them, I'll tell you what I do tell them. I couldn't have survived it. Even at age 20 years old, I couldn't have survived it. Impossible. But very patiently, they completely covered. And they will do work. And it unusual. I mean, what is done in ISRO is a different level. Earlier, now it is different, it's changing. When the UVIT, the new constitution came about the contamination, including ISRO universities. Okay, so all these are the steps. You want the telescope, then take alignment, be responsible to support the satellite. So you don't have a large angle between the whatever satellite pointing machines are there and this. This also you also use the engine model and the flight model. Okay, engine model we have some. The box. The box was sold. You saw the picture in the video. The box also had to be contamination free. It had to adjust the shocks when you go in the truck. When we moved the whole day, the truck was monitored for acceleration. So they were about you were sitting there in the truck. And the monitor chart over there. I don't know what all it did. But we had to make sure there's no acceleration more than 1G or 2G, I forget some number. So truck had to move very slowly, and we need to make sure also that there's no acceleration. The monitoring was done. We all know. Okay, last red line is important. I'm talking till launch. The other activities related to television and getting sign that is a big part of the whole thing. So we should not forget that. I'm not forgetting that. Also, it's a very big part. This was the contains. This was the biggest issue I think in UIT. You check all the materials, all the parts, and you develop. Actually, the process for this was before I came into picture in a big way. The laboratory plan, there was all plan means basic structure was there. And they were great if you went to class 10 and class 100. They were, sensitive was there, that's what I'm saying. And one of the first equipment bought for UIT was a spectrometer, which was at the heart of monitoring of the contamination. So this consciousness was actually that was really good. Thanks a lot. So you saw the video witness sample near telescope. So any location we took UIT had to check for contamination, whether it is at SHA or at URSC or at IIA. With each optical element, we keep a witness sample to see whether any possible contamination is there. In fact, at URSC, we had one incident, the contamination was nitrogen, which is used for Purdue. It is some clean nitrogen, it is some actually contaminated. So we are sampling it. So we made correction for this. So it is one has to very keen eye on that. Do very well. Last point. So this was it was 5 to 2 years. We had to say that please don't let the light come in the orbit. And they conflict of interest. Except we wanted to see everywhere. Please don't see in some places. So it took me 2 years every meeting I meet a fight. And then people convinced everywhere. Okay, so some incidences. We accept that we make mistakes. But we correct them. That's the important thing. From that point of view, I'm showing you. Nobody should be embarrassed. Okay, almost different thing. So I said already for 2 years of talking. No sketching. Very interesting. You saw the people working on cover. We are uncomfortable. Sometimes the nose started itching. So they were also I just happened to see. Hey, what are you doing? Sir, I had a small talk because they have been mentioned nitrogen contamination. Mosquito. To my shame, when I checked with my direct colleague, hey, why, what is, sir, yes, they always there saw the bill, the engineering model check. So why didn't you tell me? Anyway, so we immediately we got people from ISO together there at the center, and in 2 days they solved everything, whatever we want to do there. The thing is, whenever there's some problem, all the people they came immediately to solve it. No, I will take 1 day, I will take 2, 3, I will come next one, nothing. You start at that moment. So this problem, I think 2 days or 2%. Very happy. Then no hospital for there. Very good. Last thing. They lose bolt. So happens that the gentleman who was tightening the bolts, that they are missing. Somebody else did the exercise. And one of the bolts is an engineering model, not like one of the bolts in secondary made was blue, left me. So we just show how what can you take and what is the utility of same person doing taking practice. That was primarily where she was, I think coma. She doesn't remember, I think it was coma. Coma? Coma. And everything, no, I said, no, it's impossible. It's impossible. Why have you checked? It's impossible. Then we told them what was the check they made wrong. Not checking coma. They compensated coma in the test. It became, of course, they came out, we were talking, I mean, nobody stopped talking. And then there was committee set up to look into a serious matter. And after 1 or 2 months, we checked, it was short. But this is not expected to happen. Why is that? Detector fails. In vibration, you cannot find any problem with the design. So we just changed it. It took very long time. Almost 2 years or something. It took. But we actually had all the instruments. AstroSat. We had, so So we fell behind the fight for my this. This was a very scary thing. I mean, being nightmare. We had a gadget single point hanging over there. And luckily the protocol is so that you have to hang to test the gadget with twice as much weight or mass, what we say. Usually. So you tested it with 500 kg is required. Then after exhaustion, you found there's some problem with it. But nothing has happened. I mean, lucky. Also, not just left, the protocol of testing was very important. You stick to it. You say, oh, what is it? I made it such a simple thing, then it will fall involved. So, okay, so this is a remark. Review process was introduced from the beginning as Council mentioned with the IIA and the issue, of course, Dr. George also was is telling us, old friend, been known him for more than 40 years, 30 years. He was guiding us through so what is specialty of the what where you get caught. And so if you make one mistake, you will delay years together, you will be thrown out also. So he helped us in many years, set up by Dr. It will big help actually. And then of course the other processors. I always have great respect for all the new processors. Sometimes you say, oh, but we know better. Yes, I know better. Something I might have forgotten. So I should listen to people. The point is the whole process depends on what I will say, intelligent curiosity. It is not that someone saying, tell me, he knows better. That idea is wrong. People who are doing this, want to do good projects, they should learn this. It is not the somebody sitting who is telling you, teaching you. No, it's just intelligent curiosity. They will tell you something which you forgot. Okay. With the IIA, we cover all sectors, all parts of IIA. Any need in there is there was a very special treatment for UVIT, of course. The project was supposed to be very important. Administration, starting from management, director, and all the directors, even sometimes in the beginning council. So we had all possible support, and it's important to realize that people work directly are only part of the business. Many others forces are working is very important. Without that, you can't do anything. It's not force. Anytime something happens, they came very forward. Of course, they will make demands on you, but that's okay. But always, they will never. I mean, I don't start when the human contamination. Something new. When you work together and whatever. So very happy that with all the without such support, even 10 years would have been less for the projects. For me, then we get experience. Although there may be some people who think it could have been better. I also think it could have been better. But they wanted to manage it, certainly we could, if we had better planning, schooling, potential, you could have got better detector for you. Some development is 2 years ago, 2 years. 2 years to 10 years. You got what you got good. And then the data processing of the whole chain. I mean, I can't, we don't know how to do that, but that is something we could have done better. Sure. Think about it. And we did whatever we resources, but a lot more simulations of sky, I think. I think we didn't miss anything, but we could have missed something. You know, this, we made corrections after exposure. Some of them could have been, I mean, it always happens, of course. But my feeling is some of them could have understood before by many more simulation. So many people work from IIA other places, and results are there to see. Now, I hope that whatever has happened and whatever you got, will provide encouragement for others to do better. Not discouragement. But this image, this is what I showed earlier. And after, this is the first person. I remember when this was projected in a meeting, 100 days of success. Supreme Kumar, he was the chair. This was the time. He said, but so yeah, because there will be distortion in one aspect. But you can do better after some more television. He said, yes. I have to tell you, yes. Now we're doing 1.5 hours second resolution and 0.4 hours second distortion. Any, yeah, any questions, doubts? Any questions? Any comment?
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll move on to the next speaker. It's Professor Swarnagam Ghosh. He'll be talking about UVIT first wave.
I consider myself privileged to be here today among this esteemed gathering, and I thank organizers and IIA for the same. Yeah, so I'm talking about first light, which is kind of a exciting moment at end of the day after many things have happened, performance verification phase has happened, etc. But the excitement and tensions of that moment, I want to connect with little background so that you appreciate what actually happened. So briefly, I've done some. Now, since earlier the presentations have already talked about it, I'll skip many details just to say that 1 arc-second target resolution and half-degree field already tells you how many pixels you need in your detector system. And then given the spacecraft drift, how fast you will have to actually read out these already tells you that you need frame rate of 30 hertz, etc. So intensity means you need an intensified detector, and that's the most fragile item I consider among. Of course, there are other fragile items, but it's one of the most where we don't know till the last moment what happened. And that time available space qualified components. One did a survey and tried to see that CCD is, I mean, it is not practical to use for the kind of frame rate one is talking. So one has to fall back on the CMOS technology, and that wasn't yet matured, at least commercially available space direction. Although European Space Agency was trying to develop this one, Belgian company factory, we start with 50, and they were at an advanced stage of that. So decision was taken by ISRO and under their guidance that we will get many of these components and screen them and actually qualify. But whether they, first of all, their temperature range, etc., was also as per their specification sheets, it didn't match, but some the actual manufacturer said it's actually better than that. So the conclusion was that we will have to do screening and of course do many of them. I see some of the IIA members who are involved in the screening, other than from TIFA, but TIFA would not use this. And make a merit list of those components and then individual pieces you use for it. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, this top glass is not to be there in the actual payload. So weak links are these things between this silicon component to this terminals, and then there is a die adhesive somewhere between this piece and the ceramic. So screening process basically means the standard things were developed by ISRO over the years. And I just note I have put in red this acceleration thing, since it is relevant. 5,000 Gs were tested. Okay, so is it space worthy? We have gone through this and you have found this. This is just to give you a background where the start 250 sits. It is sitting here, and this is the overall picture that input radiation through the window. Then you have 3 electrodes. This is a microchannel plate, and the electron multiplied, and a bunch of electrons go and hit this phosphor in the anode. And that light, now this is physical dimension for how big the field is much bigger than the CMOS size. So we have to taper down by a factor of 3. And then, so this is the fiber optic taper. And then that's how the light reaches start to 50. And this is a You have seen this picture earlier also. See, all those things are inside here. Photocathode, microchannel plate, anode. This is a paper, and this is some bonding device, and these are the two electronic cards in which processing happens on the detector. A better view, where you can see this is the star 250. I have shown you earlier that, right? And central, this is where the light is coupled to the silicon plate, CMOS. Okay. Now, as mentioned earlier by Shyam, that when this see, we had an engineering model. Then this is a flight model test integrated, where this is how the star to look at the end of the test. This was the most shocking thing, and this is a whiz channel. Now, what went wrong? A lot of research was done to just to summarize that. Okay, this is just to tell what are the possible midpoints. Same thing again shown, microchannel plate, etc. So there is the fiber extension. There is a bond here, but this is the bond which has failed. This is ceramic, and then this is the ceramic, and this is the pixel bar, silicon bar. Of course, this is sitting on this card, and this is connected for thermal control through there is a bonding thing again, and a copper strap. So now doubt was only on these people. This has anyway failed, whether this has failed or this bond has failed. So anyway, so end of the day, these were the things. First of all, engineering model has seen much stronger from the same batch of screen devices. It has seen harsher vibration and it has not failed, but this one failed. And 3000, is it not enough? So somewhere actually destroyed from that same set, and it stood up to 12,000 G, so it couldn't have been. So one has to, and then it was also thermal strap was also simulated on similar pieces, and ruled out that it's not thermal shock is not able to do this. So it is just concluded there is a one-off level failure, and let us go ahead with it. But then this risk always remains. Only thing is that this bond is only for the launch time. The risk is only during the vibrations at the time of launch, not later. But there are other, of course, bright object in the field, which I mentioned earlier, and a lot of effort goes into making sure it doesn't happen. And then there is a lot of just to make these safeties work, there are a lot of complex operations. And you know there is a high voltage unit, 8000 volt, and although it is made by MSSL lab in UK, but it has already flown similar design, but high voltages are always a possible risk. Okay, so in brief, for avoiding just the bright object, there are so many steps are taken. First of all, make sure that where the telescope points doesn't have a bright source. And then there is a bright object detector mechanism, which I will speak a little more shortly. And make sure this logic works efficiently. So high voltage unit is ramped slowly so that it has enough time for that algorithm to catch whether there is a bright source and actually shut it down. That is also one of them. And then spacecraft, etc., is modulated in a 100-second period, 10 arc-second radius movement, so that even if it is an allowed bright source, it shouldn't damage the photocathode or MCP. And so it is all the time happening. I don't know, most of the astronomers may not know when they are observing. Actually, the spacecraft is going round and round by this movement. And then, of course, smaller window operation always mandatorily first checks the field. Given all this, means these are the kind of defense mechanism against happening. And just to say a few words about what the bright object detect logic does. It is, first of all, this logic is on all the time whenever it is imaging. It keeps monitoring successive frames and looks for if any of these three parameters, which is some selectable threshold, number of successive pixels which are above that threshold, and persistence, how many frames successively has met that. Once this condition is met, it transitions to BOD state, and which drops the high voltages, flags the BOD state, and raises a hardware alarm wire going to the spacecraft, which makes sure all three channels are turned off by actual gracefully. Gracefully is the keyword because you see immediately because in a particular sequence, you have to turn off the detector so that later on, when you turn on, it is still available for use. So this is just to say that what that graceful means is that you have very well-defined states of the detector so that you can go only from one to the neighboring one. You can't jump. And if you jump, then there is an error. It will not be allowed. And then BOD is just one of the things. Then there is this overcurrent of high voltage, which can also shut it down. And then single event latch up. That can actually take it to a fail-safe kind of state. So there are all these things happening in parallel all the time to make sure that the detector is safe. So this complexity also leads to kind of errors or something else. So actual shutdown and abort happens by any of these five. Erroneous state change request is a kind of in scheduling error. An anomalous filter. This is to make sure that the desired field means light, what is to be allowed to the detector is already in place. And BOD, anyway, they talked about overcurrent of high voltage and this single event latches. None of this. So all these are all the time active. BME makes sure. Now, for me, first light means what? Today we talk of multi-messenger astronomy. So child particles should also be kind of part of astronomy. So first light happened, I would say, just after launch in the PV phase, when slowly voltages were increased and finally, with the door closed, in the door closed, cosmic ray shower when you see, I would say, that proves that the bonding hasn't failed in the launch. So we know that that one is gone, that risk is not there, wasn't. So that's one kind of first light. But astronomers would say real first light is with photons for this charged particle. So then what happens? So door is open, you're pointing to your favorite target, and this is 180, and imaging this. And quick look images in the MOX one is seeing no stars. The reason found was, of course, that the filter wheel is a block condition, it's still fine, so better to be safe. And then after fixing that, now the BOD. It shut down. One didn't know what happened, but from the analysis, you know, BOD is the state where it has gone. I talked about all that. What is BOD? Now, two errors were discovered. Why it happened? One was, the settings of the detector are so many parameters, they are tabulated and table number is only passed on. Round table number was passed and higher voltage than needed was actually set up. So that was one. And again, one of the filter confusion was the two different subsystems had a different numbering sequence in the wheel, 1, 2, 3, 4 this way, or 1, 3, 4 that way. Okay. Fine, we were all happy after fixing that and light came. So we see first time the sky, how it looks in through end to end, entire. And performance verification continues, and we think we've done everything, but BOD triggers it. Now, same field, same stars in the field, why? Now we know the stars, their magnitudes. So what was finally found was that photosensitivity of this channel end to end was much higher than the anticipated. So it's a good news, of course, that it is we are seeing more than what we planned for. So we know what to do. The BOD has triggered because our threshold was assuming something else. You have to just correct the threshold. This is what the catch is. So threshold adjustment parameter, the number of bits and details in the engineering allowed, the threshold you needed was very big. Okay, it happens. But anyway, you know that, okay, you are doing 1 second integration, you can reduce the time for which you collect the photons. Reduce. Now the second bottleneck comes. This Viz images, the entire all pixels 512 by 512 is to be dumped to ground. And that comes through a, the time you get buffer and then stream. So there is a quota allowed for how much amount of data per orbit you can actually collect and send. So that it was exceeding. The factor 16 is a big thing. So then, luckily within the software controller, there were this stacking and normalizations where actually your average of these 16 frames every second is a thing. sent down. So everything is met now. Your is not triggering. Fine. So now finally you see the image of it. By the way, all these images are but see your operation center here. You see. So after you see first. Now is that all? There are still BODs even now, but so you do unanticipated. These are some satellite moving in the field, etc. But nothing happens really. And so you see the track because at some point the thing met just the threshold of triggering the BOD. So okay, I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thanks a lot to all the speakers who took us down the memory lane of building UVIT and also giving some enthusiasm to the young people who are sitting beside and who will try to build one more instrument in the future. So with these words, I think the inaugural session has come to an end and we will go downstairs to have a group photograph and then we'll break for a high tea. Once again, thanks a lot.